Hey everyone, and welcome back to another video. Today it is time for a quick look at the Fire Mage in Legion based off the alpha. Because it's the alpha, the concern here is more about gameplay, that kind of thing, less about rating, less about the super hardcore numbers. Basically, is the rotation that much different, and is it fun? And the way that I'm going to do that is, first of all, running you through all of the core abilities, then we're going to take a look at the talents, then the artifact weapon stuff, and we'll kind of tie that together into the overall rotation. Now, Fire is actually a spec that Blizzard said they're pretty damn happy with, but they have made a few small tweaks here and there to just change how things are a little bit. So, in terms of abilities, first of all, in terms of abilities, the first thing that I think I really need to explain, because not everyone who's watching this will have played Fire, is Hot Streak. Basically, doing 2 direct damage critical strikes in a row makes your next Pyroblast or Flame Strike free and instant cast, and do double the normal Ignite damage. If you don't know what Ignite is, basically it's your mastery. Whenever you damage stuff with your fire spells, it will take even more damage over time as fire damage, and every 2 seconds that can spread to another target. So the way things work with your abilities is you've got Fireball. This is pretty cheap, and it's pretty fast to cast. You then got Pyroblast, which right now is replaced by Phoenix Flames because of my artifact weapon. Basically, Pyroblast is a longer cast that does more damage, so proccing a free and instant Pyroblast is obviously a pretty good thing. Now, because this Phoenix Flames thing is always active, I pretty much need to explain it off the bat. So periodically you get Flame Orbs. You can see one hovering above my shoulder. These Flame Orbs will cause Pyroblast to be replaced by Phoenix Flame. Now, Phoenix Flame is similar enough to Pyroblast. Basically, you hurl a Phoenix at the target that does 20,000 damage and splash damage to enemies within 4 yards. So to be able to show you the very base rotation, I actually want to take my artifact weapon off and put on this random crappy staff, so that we don't have to deal with these flame orbs kind of messing stuff up for us. But I do need to expand all the flame orbs, so let's just do that now. It's a very cool spell effect, I'll give them that. Anyway, this is the very core of Fire. So, you are casting your fireballs. And there is one other big change. So Inferno Blast is pretty different. It can now be used anytime. It's not on the global cooldown. What this means is that as soon as you get a single crit from your fireball, and your first fireball will land during the cast of your next fireball, well, in the middle of that cast, you can actually do an Inferno Blast, and then your free Pyroblast. Overall, I think this does increase the pace of gameplay quite a bit. And right now, I don't feel like I'm super beholden to crits because, well, with this being Inferno Blast always crits, and I can do it at any time, so all I actually need is 1 crit to start proccing my free Pyroblast. Anyway, let's see how this plays. So, we walk in here, I'm just going to do some fireballs. There we go, we actually got a proc, and then we got a free Pyroblast. Now, I actually have a talent here, which can cause a free Pyroblast to give you another free Pyroblast, which is pretty crazy. As far as the gameplay goes, it's pretty simple. You just cast spells, you fish for procs, and that's it. The core of this is a 3-button spec in many ways. Now, if you're in an AoE scenario, instead of doing Pyroblast, which is what I had been doing there, you will instead be doing Flame Strike, which is a little bit different. It's just your AoE option. Again, pretty damn simple. We've got, in terms of our main cooldown, Combustion, that's been redesigned, so basically it's a 10-second cooldown. You increase your crit chance by 100% for 10 seconds, and it gives you mastery equal to your critical strike, and because it gives you your mastery, that means that it makes your ignites significantly more powerful. And I suppose that actually takes us into a state where I can first put my artifact weapon back on, and then second go through all of our abilities. So, Blink blinks you forward, just like it does now. Conjure Refreshment gives us some lovely food. We've got Counterspell. Dragon's Breath is this. So it's an AoE in front of you. Fireball, which we've already covered. Flame Strike, we've already covered. Frost Nova, pretty much the same. You do that, it will freeze targets in place. Ice Barrier just puts a bit of a shield on you. Inferno Blast, so this is your instant cast thing. 12-second recharge, always crits. Basically, it's just used to activate Hot Streak off heating up, and you can cast that off the global cooldown. One of my talents here is Living Bomb, so I've decided to use that. It's actually can be spread by Inferno Blast, pretty cool stuff. Then there's Phoenix Flame, which hurls that Phoenix. Basically, it's similar to a Pyroblast, just that it's got that splash damage component. We've got Polymorph, so it turns your enemy into a sheep for a while. Portals, right now I've only got Stormwind, I think I just need to go to a portal trainer or something. Scorch, which is laughably pathetic. It means you can do damage while you're moving, but it does a pathetic amount of damage. Doesn't seem like a fun mechanic. And there are so many instants and procs anyway with how this spec plays that I really question how much you need Scorch. I suppose Scorch can be used to, to actually get a proc of heating up or something like that. But anyway, it doesn't particularly matter. So that's Scorch. Then we've got Slow Fall, so you fall a bit slower. Lovely stuff. Spell Steal, which I believe is the same as it always has been. Transport, which will just instantly teleport you somewhere. Then we've got Time Warp, which is basically Heroism. And then Teleport, Hall of the Guardian, which will take you to where I am currently, which is your class hall. With that covered, time for the talent. So here is Pyromaniac. Casting a Pyroblast while Hot Streak is active has a 50% chance to instantly reactivate Hot Streak. What does this mean? You throw out a Pyroblast, you can then throw out another one, and another one, and another one, and another one, and it can be insane. One of my Twitter followers actually had 8 Pyromaniac sort of Pyroblasts in a row. That's, just instant 8 Pyroblasts. Kind of mental, seems a bit OP currently. There's then Conflagration, so enemies affected by Ignite have a chance to flare up for 3 seconds. While they're flared up, they, or near up by enemies will take damage every second. Basically, it just makes your Ignite a little bit more powerful. And then we have Firestarter, which means that Fireball can outchain to up to 1 nearby targets. Great in an AoE scenario, and it also will more directly apply your Ignites to things rather than having to wait for it to naturally spread itself. Moving on to the level 30 tier, we've got some nice little survivability things. So here's Shimmer. Whenever you take damage, there is a 30% chance for the CD of Blink to reset, but it can only happen once every 30 seconds. Then we've got Cauterize, so fatal damage will instead bring you to 35% health, and then burn you for 28% of your maximum health over 6 seconds. And then while you're burning, movement slowing effects are suppressed and your movement speed is increased by 150%, and this can't occur more than once every 2 minutes. So basically, if a boss one-hits you, you don't die, instead you go to 35% health, you then take damage over time such that you'll end up with a very low amount of health, but it does mean that you can move away pretty quickly and get to a safe place. Because that damage is staggered, it means that a healer would have time to throw some stuff on you. And then we've got Ice Block, so this is I assume a base 5-minute recharge, and you just turn into an ice cube for 10 seconds, and when you're an ice cube, you can't take damage. But of course, you can either, move or attack or really do anything else. Next, we've got some DPS things. So here's Mirror Image, creates 3 copies of the of you nearby, and they will attack your enemy, lasts for 40 seconds. It's the same now. Now, Rune of Power is different. It's not actually what it says here. It's supposed to have 2 charges. I think a 45-second recharge per charge, not 100% sure on that, but basically, you put your Rune of Power in the ground, when you're standing in it, you do more damage. I think this is a pretty terrible talent. I mean, I think it sucks on live as Arcane as an example. I just dislike it in general. I don't think it's that much fun. The design that they intend to go for, where, you can put down 2 of them, the design that they are planning on going for, you can put down 2 of them, and you can't have 100% uptime like with this current tooltip here. Basically, it means that you're going to be planning out your movements. So you'll think, right, well, I'm standing here. I think within the next minute, I'll need to stand here and I'll need to stand over there. So I'll place them both or whatever, and that'll be fine. Still, I don't think it's fun at all. I just hate Rune of Power. Screw it. Let's move on to Encounter's Flow. Magical energy flows through you during combat, building up to 20% increased damage and then diminishing down to 4% increased damage, cycling every 10 seconds. That's the kind of thing I think you would be tracking on a weak aura, and then perhaps when you have 3 of your flame orbs or something like that, or just if you have a flame orb in general, you would try to, fire off your phoenix flames or something like that when you are indeed at the 10% extra damage. I mean, hell, if you were really good, you'd be looking at when you're heating up and thinking, right, well, I've just heated up, it's we're at 9% increased damage, so let's just throw off a, throw off an Infernal Blast, get myself a procced Pyro, and that'll be doing 10% more damage. I kind of like what they're going for there, though a 10% cycle time is very, very, very quick. I almost wish this was a little bit longer in its cycle time, but maybe had an even larger effect than it currently has. Anyway, let's move on to some other DPS things. We've got Blast Wave, 25-second cooldown, 40-yard range, causes an explosion around the target. that the target can actually be an enemy or an ally, which does a bunch of fire damage to everyone within 8 yards and reduces movement speed by 70% for 4 seconds. And the primary target takes 100% increased damage, which, based on the numbers here, means that the primary enemy would basically take like a Phoenix Flame or a Pyroblast, something like that, equivalent of damage. Next, we've got Flame On, so when this is activated, it gives you 2 charges of Inferno Blast, which is what you use to essentially just get free crits for your hot streaks. I actually wonder, though, if this will go above 4. So I just clicked and it doesn't go above 4 stacks. That's a little bit of, that's a bit of a pity, whatever. You can use this to get free hot streaks. It's basically as simple as that. Next, we've got Control Burn, so whenever you gain Heating Up, there's a 10% chance to instantly go into hot streak, and the chance of this happening is increased by your crit. Next, we've got Ice Flow, so this means that your next mage spell can be cast while you're moving. It's got 3 charges, 20-second recharge, and you can actually cast this while you're casting another ability because it's not on the global cooldown. Then we've got Ring of Frost, summons a Ring of Frost for 10 seconds. Enemies entering it get incapacitated for 10 seconds, which is, I think, how it works now. Moving on, we've got Ice Ward. This just gives your Frost Nova 2 charges. On the 90 tier, we've got Living Bomb, so a target becomes a living bomb, taking a bunch of fire damage over 12 seconds. When the effect ends, or the target dies, it explodes, doing AoE damage, and this can be spread by Inferno Blast, so that can turn into a pretty nice AoE situation. We've then got Unstable Magic, so basically, for this spec, your Fireball has a 30% chance to explode on impact, doing an additional 50% damage to the target, and to all enemies within 8 yards, so that's just some free AoE, and certainly Unstable Magic, in combination with Firestarter, is a decent bit more AoE. We've got Flame Perch, so Flame Strike ignites a patch in the ground that it's cast on, and that patch will do fire damage to any enemies standing in it. On to the 100 tier, we've got Kindling. Your Fireball, Pyroblast, and Inferno crits will reduce the cooldown remaining on Combustion by 1 second. Of course, you are going to be critting a lot of things as this spec, so while 1 second doesn't sound a lot, that will certainly add up. We've then got Cinderstorm. This is a 1600 mana, 1.4 second cast. You throw a spread of cinders that travel in an arc, and each one does some damage. Let's go see what that's like. So I'll stand that I think I'll be in a pretty good position to hit all these guys. Let's use this and see what goes on. Alright, that's a pretty cool looking ability, and it's of course applied in Ignite to these guys. We then have Meteor. Nope. And then finally we have Meteor, so this calls down a Meteor which lands on the target location after 3 seconds, dealing a whole bunch of damage split evenly between targets, and it will also burn the ground, which does damage every second for 8 seconds. Let's just click on that, wait a few seconds, and there you go, lovely big Meteor. Very, very, very cool looking ability. Just going to move away from all those spell effect noises while we take a look at our artifact weapon. So then, it's passive. You periodically accumulate these flame orbs, and the flame orbs cause your pyroblast to be replaced by Phoenix's Flame. So Phoenix's Flame seems like a very similar anyway to getting an instant pyroblast. It does a whole bunch of damage, and it also has an AoE component. Now, if you get a hot streak, that hot streak is not consumed by Phoenix's Flame, so if I was to get a hot streak right now, I could do all 3 Phoenix's Flames, and then do my hot streaked Pyroblast. That's how that works. Let's have a look at the rest of the things. Alright, so let's look at the actual traits and abilities. So your first ability is a 1-minute cooldown called Phoenix Reborn. This does a bunch of damage to every target that you've ignited, which is pretty good instant damage, but it also gives you a Flame Orb for each Phoenix burst. The way I read it, and based on how I've been using this, that will regenerate all 3 of your Phoenixes. So what I would do is use 3 Phoenix Flames. Yes, I would use 3 of those. Then I would use Phoenix Reborn, and then I could use another 3 Phoenix Flames. That gives you pretty insane burst every once in a while, especially if you've got a few hot streaks going on at roughly the same time. Let's have a look at the various different traits. So, Molten Skin increases the damage reduction of Molten Armor by M1 divided by minus 15%. We've got Aftershocks. Whenever you cast Flame Strike, it will trigger 1 additional time per charge, so it will go 3 additional times once that's, got like 3 points in it. Scorched Earth. Whenever you cast 4 consecutive Scorches, you gain Pyroblast, making your next Pyroblast instant and free and do extra damage. Now that's rather interesting. Remember how I said Scorch was boring? this will give you guaranteed, pretty good actually, guaranteed DPS while you're moving. And then we've got Great Balls of Fire. I want to hear Brian Blessed say that. Your Fireball does 5% more damage. And let's have a look at this major trait here, which just says rank 0 out of 0, so it's not implemented yet. We've got Pyroclasmic Paranoia. Pyroblast does an additional 3% damage per point. Fire at Will reduces the cast time of your Fireball by 0.1 seconds per charge. Cauterizing Blink. Whenever you blink, you heal for 60 over 6 seconds. I assume that's 60% of your base health, maybe. I'm not 100% sure. I don't actually have enough artifact power to test that out. Actually, no, it couldn't be that 60 per point, so they just need to fix up the number there. We've got Reignition Overdrive. Your Infernal Blast does 3% more damage. Apparently that's a temporary thing, though. We've then got Burning Gaze. Increases fire damage dealt by 3%, which leads us on to Pyretic Incantation. Every consecutive critical strike increases your critical strike damage by 15%. By Fire Be Purged, your Fireball dispels one beneficial magic effect. We've then got a trait slot here which doesn't have anything implemented. And finally, Blast Furnace. Infernal Blast now applies Crucible of Flames, dealing additional damage over 9 seconds. Quite a lot of dots going on once you add everything up. So how's this spec going to be playing overall? Well, it's very similar to today. And actually, there's one thing I do want to mention before we get into it, though. There's sometimes when I hit Phoenix Flames that a whole bunch of Phoenixes come out. I don't know why that happens. I originally thought it would just go to all my Ignite targets. That's not true. I thought that if I had a hot streak and then did Phoenix Flames, then I would get multiple Phoenixes. That turned out not to be reliable. I think it might be a bug. That's why I'm not really too bothered about it right now. Anyway, I'm just going to swap my talent over here to Control Burn so we get loads of procs, because I think that would be decently fun to show you. And let's just take our role at playing this spec. So basically what I'm going to do here is I'll just start off, I don't know, let's just say Living Bomb, Combustion, we'll do all of our Phoenix Flames, then we'll do our Phoenix Reborn, more Phoenix Flames, just, see how things feel. So, yeah, let's just get right into it. Loads of Phoenix Flames coming out. Okay, that's interesting. I would have assumed that the Phoenix Flame crits would have actually set off my my hot streaks and stuff. Not hot streak, yeah, hot streaks. Doesn't seem like that was the case. You'll also notice that it's very short, the duration of which effect, Combustion. Yeah, I just got look at the amount of chains that I'm getting off here. Pretty damn crazy. Obviously, you always want to ensure with Infernal Blast that you've got one on, on cooldown. So if you've got 2 charges of it, then you better use one of them, or else it wouldn't make a lot of sense. Let's just use the Phoenix Reborn again, which, look, gives us some more Phoenixes. You'd probably want to tie that up to some period when you can do a good bit more damage. So overall, I think this is actually a really fun spec. It feels quite reactive, quite fun. Oh, looks like I just messed my rotation up there. That was kind of silly. Yeah, I'm quite the fan, and I actually haven't played it on live. You might have been able to tell that because, I've probably messed up something in this video, but I think it's a fun spec. It does have a lot of RNG. I know it's almost the hot topic of the moment, isn't it, having RNG really affect your casting. I think this is a formula that's pretty much proven over time, and that people do enjoy it. It's played like this since Cataclysm. I indeed remember that Total Biscuit video. I think he was in Skywall. Yeah, he was in Skywall. As a Fire Mage, talking about how that felt. And I think you do have quite a lot of control over your crits as well. Now, absolutely, if you get super lucky crits and stuff like that's crazy, then this will be a pretty different feeling spec. But with the way that Infernal Blast is playing, I feel like even as I just think there's enough control over it where you can essentially just, get one crit and then force the hot streak. That means that your kind of baseline, what you need for success is just one crit, and then you will at least get one hot streak every 12 seconds based on your Infernal Blast recharges. I think that's quite a good design. I'm just trying to think of other things to really talk about here with this spec. Can't think of a great deal. Just trying to think of other stuff to show you with this spec, and I can't think of a great deal because it honestly is pretty simple in terms of what it does. Yeah, there'll be skill in using all this stuff right. And, timing stuff up with your various abilities and things like that. I suppose in a way I'm struggling coming up with other things to show you for this spec because it really is quite simple. It's amazing, it's 3 buttons at its very core, but they're definitely 3 buttons that they've been able to get a lot of depth and interaction out with, which is quite nice. And I'll just do another round of DPS then, just to show you what that's kind of like. Oh wow, yeah, we're getting loads of crits, which have all timed rather nicely with our combustion. The combustion effect is pretty damn cool as well. And yeah, this is just pretty much how Fire is going to be playing. You'll be hurling loads of fireballs, getting loads of procs. If you're the kind of person who enjoys proc-heavy specs, then certainly this is something you're going to, I think, find a lot of enjoyment with. But I suppose past that, I don't really have a lot else to add. I've got good impressions, and I'm definitely a lot more likely to try out my Fire Mage in Legion now that I've played this. So that's basically it for this video, everyone. Thank you very much for watching, and I will see you next time.